And we're live.
What's it?
We're on.
Okay, well, hello folks. Welcome to Winks Tucky for a light and fluffy and sometimes controversial look at sport and life. And I tell you what, Tucky, I'm really excited. AFL is back and St Kilda are going to finally break that drought. 55 years and another premiership coming their way.
Not so sure about that, Winks, but they're looking a little bit better, the Saints. But when you talk flags and St Kilda, they don't have a big trophy cabinet.
Well, 26 wooden spoons.
And that Ansett Cup that they won, and Lenny Hayes looked like he lost his dog, but one of the great photos of all time.
Yeah. We had the Australian Open.
We did.
And the male winner was Novak the Joker Djokovic.
A little bit predictable. We had all the is he injured or not sort of controversy during the tournament, but in the end he was too good, and it was a fairly mundane sort of men's side of the draw. I think I didn't really watch much of the men's tennis, but Novak won and then did his, I'm very grateful, that rehearsed speech he does whenever he wins, and I love the fans of Melbourne and all that sort of stuff, but they don't really like him. So.
Yeah, so I think that was his 18th Grand Slam victory.
19th?
Maybe you're right. I thought he was 18th,
yeah.
But I know that Rafa and Roger are at 20.
Yes.
And Novak's also, I think, a year or two younger than Rafa, and Roger's nearly Tom Brady's age. So could Novak at the end of his career be judged as potentially the greatest male player?
I think he'll definitely have the most Grand Slam wins. Rafa will probably win the French Open until he's 46. He wins that every year, but I think Djokovic will have the most wins. I don't think he's going to go down as the best ever. I think Rod Laver is always, in my opinion, the best player ever, but he'll have the most Grand Slam wins.
And on the female side of the draw, come on, Barty, let's go party. Yeah. Uro. She made it to the quarterfinals, but was bundled out. They always say bundled out in tennis. I'm not sure why they say that, but she was cruising in the first set, and then
I can't even remember who beat her. But the standard thing in women's tennis, I think it was Collins. She lost the first set easily, and the number one tactic in tennis is to go and take a 10-minute piss break and try and arrest the momentum, and I think she did that really well.
I'd like to correct the producer if I may. I believe she lost to Collins in Adelaide the following week and might have lost to Muchova or Pavlova or something like that in the quarterfinal.
Well, in the end the game was over, so she knocked Barty out. Again, all the interest in the sort of women's draw dropped off Australian-wise after that, because I think our next best women's tennis player not going to threaten the second week of Grand Slams. But Osaka, she's a superstar, won her fourth Grand Slam
Who she beat? Was it Jan Brady or
Jay Brady? Yeah, I think it was
Jay Brady.
Jan Brady, and it was good to see in the players' box. Marsha and Cindy were there as well.
Yes.
I'm not sure if Greg, Peter, and the other guy.
Bobby. Yes, Bobby. Yes.
Bobby, and I think Alice was preparing her meals during the tournament, so that's probably got her into the final.
Alice was with Sam the Butcher. And talking about Sam the Butcher...
Sam Stosur?
Sam Stosur, yes. I think 6-love, 6-1, I think she went out in.
I think a couple of solid first round exits, but she did make the final of one of the mixed or the women's doubles, I think, so she was still raking the cash in Sam Stosur.
So whilst I think the public were a little disappointed with Come on Barty, Let's Go Party's form over the last few weeks, she still did make the quarterfinals. And what is it about Barty? Is it something is it the fact that we'd love to have a drink with her, or she loves her footy and she's...
I think having a schooner in the grandstand of the AFL always endears you to the Australian public. She barracks for Richmond because she's been through... She retired for a few years and played BBL and that sort of stuff. I think Aussies love a redemption comeback story.
But she's just one of us. She's just one of the guys, one of the girls. She's one of...
Except she's number one in the world.
And
even that's a bit controversial at the moment, given they have a frozen ranking system in tennis at the moment, which is basically saying if you missed out on tennis last year because of COVID, your ranking's protected. I think that'll change soon. They'll lift those restrictions pretty soon, and you'll find Osaka's number one, and all the points that Barty didn't have to defend for a French Open win, or they'll drop off her rankings, and she'll be back in the pack a little bit, but she's still a superstar.
Well, Australian tennis probably isn't at its greatest heights at the moment. We only had, obviously, Barty go through the quarters, and everyone else was bundled out pretty quickly. Cock and tits and ass.
What was that?
Or cock and ass. Tits, cock and...
Tanaki?
Tanasi. He was a good comeback, but he...
honourable loss.
An honourable
second
loss.
round, I think it was. So,
yes, an honourable loss.
And the Demon, Alex Diminor.
Alex D. Minor.
Yep.
Is that his middle name start with a D?
It'd be Alex D. Minor, wouldn't he?
You're probably right. Now, let's get on to the golf. Because I know you love your golf, and so do I. And today we saw big, bad Bryson the Bison pull it off at Bay Hill.
Yep. Pull off the tournament win, yep.
And I will say that we do have a very special guest, Tucky. I know you love Bryson, and he has been kind enough to join us here in the studio. He's just at the door. I'll just go and get him.
No worries. I'm really looking forward to this, and it's an interview in person, so the airline industry's the ability to get from the States to Australia in such a short time is remarkable. And as I stretch this out a little bit as our guest comes back into shot, welcome Bison DeChambeau.
Before you ask me any questions, I'd like to thank my sponsors alphabetically and phonetically for the next 5 or 6 minutes. But I know you've got an important podcast or cast. I think I'm going to cry because this was for Mr. Palmer. Mr. Palmer.
Arnold Palmer, you're talking about the host of the tournament?
Mr. Palmer followed me and supported me and loved me. And Mr. Palmer is married to Mrs. Palmer. And I like to listen to Robert Palmer. And I don't mind a chicken Palmer when I come down to Australia. And I just love Mr. Palmer.
Are there any words you'd like to say to Mr. Palmer?
I love you, Mr. Palmer.
Thank you for joining us, Bison DeChambeau Winkle. There's been no victories for the Aussies in recent weeks on the PGA Tour, but there's been some solid performances, I think, Dan.
Well, Cameron Smith is probably one of our better performers, and the leash is still up there.
I did see Greg Chalmers snuck into a tournament
Yes.
the other day, and
He was leading after the first round.
he's the master of getting into the reverse opposite field draws and sneaking a win and extending his exemption on the PGA Tour.
I'm sure, was that Riviera? I think Max Homer ended up winning that tournament.
Yes.
And that was a tournament I watched as well with great interest. In the last round, Max Homer was playing with Sam Burns, and I think he was playing with Webb Simpson as well. So they had a final group of Homer, Simpson and Mr. Burns. And it's,
An interesting final group there. Any other characters from The Simpsons playing?
no. Oh, well, Jason Duffner, the Duff.
Yes,
He was
the
there.
Duff Man.
Yes, he was there. I want to bring up, one of my favourite golfers is Tony Finau, who
Yes.
I think will one day, and very shortly, I think he'll win a major. Tony, he's an excellent player. Some people are questioning perhaps his ability to win down the stretch.
Yes, I think that's valid for
Yes.
Tony Finau. He was in a playoff a couple of weeks ago. I always remember him as the guy that dislocated his ankle in the Masters Par 3 tournament and popped it back in place, but Darren Creswell style.
Yes, he did do that. But he's had a great run lately, but albeit he just can't win. He's seconds and he's fourths and he's fifths, but I think until Tony wins, he's going to be under the microscope, Tucky. And that's a good lead into our next segment, Under the Microscope, and I believe you've been looking at...
I've got a sportsman that maybe polarises opinion a little bit in the AFL sphere, and his name is Brody Grundy.
Well, the Brody Grundy who signed a 7-year,
Collingwood Ruckman,
$12.8 million contract just recently.
I think he got about 20% equity in the Collingwood Football Club in that deal.
Adam Treloar says hi to Brody as well.
Yes. Yeah, so he signed a 7-year contract, lost 3 teammates because of it. But
yeah.
So my view on Brody Grundy is that he is an absolute superstar.
Mm-hmm.
I know he struggled in 2020 in the back half of the...
At his best.
At his best, but I think his best is there most of the time, except for the back end of 2020. I wonder if he was one of those players that didn't like the bubble.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was a few of those.
Yeah, Jeremy Cameron famously couldn't go and fish or whatever it is he likes to do. He likes to go and get in the outdoors, and Brody Grundy strikes me as a little bit of a Bohemian hippie style sort of guy that's got interest outside of footy, but he also looked injured at the end of 2020. So in the old days, you probably would have thought he had osteitis pubis.
Yes.
But I think he's ready to bounce back in 2021, and in all likelihood, be knocking on the door to be the All-Australian Ruckman, maybe behind Nick Nat and Max Gawn. But I know some supporters, even Collingwood supporters, don't think he's worth that mega contract. But I think he's an absolute superstar. He doesn't miss games. He's 26 years old. And you can just lock him in for a 20-possession game every week.
Yeah. But what makes a good ruckman? That's my question to you. Is it someone who gets 20 to 25 possessions? We are a little bit, I guess, enamoured with ruckmen who get the ball a lot. I look at Nick Nat, who might get the ball 10 or 12 times a game, but his centre clearance work is elite. In fact, I think he's the best centre clearance ruckman to have ever played the game, Nick Nat.
Oh, fair enough. I think Nick Nat's a one out. His athletic gifts and his aggression are just unbelievable. He's not as polished when he gets the footy. He doesn't get it that often, but you do often see him running out the front of the square, which is from a centre bounce, which is rare for a ruckman. But what I like in a ruckman is someone who can compete in all facets, be competitive in the centre bounces, and actually be able to play around with the footy, but also...
Which Grundy and Max Gawn are.
And they're very good at that, but also can get possessions around the ground and join in the sort of offensive chains, get back and help out the defence. And I think Grundy's one of the few guys that can do all of that. And against lesser ruckmen, he absolutely dominates them physically and aerobically. And I think you'll see this year that he starts to have some of those breakout games again. And he'll be pivotal in any chance Collingwood have of being right up the pointy end of the season.
Okay, well, the fellow I've got under the microscope, and I might be a little bit harsh here, so feel free to step in if you think I am. It's a guy who's only been around for 5 years in the AFL system. He plays for the Bombers, and I think he needs to have a big year this year, and that's Aaron Francis.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so Aaron's played, I think it's 35 games in 5 years.
Very high draft pick, wasn't he?
Yes, he was a very high draft pick. He did have a few issues at the start of his career. I think he found it hard to adjust to AFL life, perhaps.
Publicly, he's expressed that he's had mental health issues.
Yes, yeah.
Maybe might have had some fitness challenges.
Yes.
He's not the most aerobic sort of footballer, is he?
No, he's not. He had under 10 possessions a game on average last year. The thing with Aaron is, I look at him and I say, where is his best position? And I just don't know the answer to that. If they're going to play him in the back line, do they play him on a key position player, like they have tried a few times? I'm not sure that's his go, because I don't think he's has the desire and the hunger and the competitive. I think to play key back, you have to have a fierce competitiveness. I don't know if he's got that to play key back. I think his best spot would be on the half-back flank, similar to, say, a Nick Vlastuin type. I would like to see him get more of the ball. Yeah,
Nick Vlastuin is outstanding, and he'd probably have a harder edge to his game than Aaron Francis, but I think he's a frustrating player to watch, and sometimes I wonder if, when he plays on the gun forwards, this might sound silly, that he almost doesn't want to do well because he'll be locked into that position going forward.
It's a little bit like my last game against Ilya Grigic at the MCG when I predicted he'd kick.
You did say he'd kick 10 goals on you, and
he only kicked 5.
But he did kick 10. So
yes,
it was a not maybe good for your footy career, but your analytics career and your predictions was pretty good.
Yeah, so look, I think this is a big year for Aaron Francis. I'd like to see him get more of the ball, as I said, and be a guy who can get 20 to 25 possessions. He's got great skills. He's a good decision maker.
Do the Bombers fans like him?
I think the Bombers fans do like him. I think they're prepared to give him even more time, but I watch him pretty closely and I just think, I'm just not sure if he's got the pace and the competitiveness to perhaps take it to the next level. I hope he does.
So potentially the next couple of years shape him as a footballer, and he's either a 200-game player with a good career, but he could potentially be out of the system, could he?
Well,
or traded back to Adelaide, or start. He might be chasing his career if he doesn't find a position soon.
Possibly. But look, he's now considered a senior player at Essendon. And they're going through a development phase. They actually came out during the week, I think, and used some superfluous sports sayings like...
Was it Ben Ruckman? Was he leading that, or was it other people?
No, I think Ben might have said that. But
what was the message from Ben Ruckman?
I think they just... Things like, we just want to see improvement, and yes, we're just trying to develop, and...
What's that code for normally in AFL?
That means we're going to finish bottom 4. Yeah.
There are nice ways of saying that.
Yes.
I saw Alistair Clarkson said, we probably won't get any silverware this year, but we're just looking for growth in our players.
Yes.
Which also means I think we'll be bottom 4.
Yeah, look, don't get me wrong, I like Essendon, I like the direction where they're headed, I like the guys they've drafted. They've also got some really good second-year players, so I think they're going places, but yes, this is the time of the year where you hear those superfluous sports sayings. And Mick, I know we were talking before about some of the sayings we hear and we heard on the sports field when we were kicking the dew off the ground.
Well, I think when you get to the lower levels of footy, I'm sure it still happens at AFL level, but when you get to the state league and community sort of football, you get a lot of those cliches that get thrown around in the change rooms or out on the ground. And
yes.
Well, what's the famous one I always like is when someone says, we owe this mob.
Yes, that's a very common one, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what does it actually mean, we owe this mob?
Well, I think it's just... Normally it's either they beat us last time or they're a rival of ours, but it's not like you've entered a financial transaction and they owe you money.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I was playing, there was a guy, a very vocal teammate of mine, who used to say that all the time, and I used to correct him and say, well, in fact, last time we actually beat them by 17 points. So if you consider that, we don't actually owe anything.
Sometimes the truth serum doesn't go down well in a footy huddle. I like three-quarter time. Nearly every week, if the game is close, someone would say, we're fitter than them.
Yes, and that's a good one, because how would you actually know if you're fitter than them?
Again, it doesn't go down well when you go, have you got any evidence to back that up? Have you compared beat tests between the two sides?
You should never question the coach at that stage about what he says. Have you ever put your hand up at three-quarter and said, I'm not too sure about that, Gladys?
But based on my observations, I think we might be at level par, so this could be a flip of a coin. And then you always get... I did notice community football this year, supporters aren't going to be allowed out to the huddle, so... I think one of the great things about local football is that when the coach finishes his speech at three-quarter time, you get that rah from all the supporters.
Yes, the roar.
Yes, it's inspiring.
Sometimes it happens when you're like 83 points behind. Yes.
Or you get the big huddle at quarter time when the game's tight, and then three-quarter time you're 10 goals down and everyone's in the bar. I don't really care about how the team's going, but...
What about a pre-season training when you're doing, say, 400s and 200s or whatever it might be? You're busting a gut. And
you just don't want to talk, do you?
No, and you've always got a mathematician in your team who says, halfway there, fellas. And you're going, okay, we're doing 8 of these and we've done 4, so I think you're correct.
Yeah, we're doing 400. So what you're saying is we've got another 400s to go. That is excruciating. Don't remind me, numbnuts. I don't want to hear that.
Or if you've done 3, the guy says, after this one, we're halfway there. Or if you've done 4, they say, after this one, we've only got 3 more to go.
We're on the downhill now, and you go, well, I'd love to be running downhill, but I'm still doing 400s.
But we love our footy, and I love observing people at the footy in the crowds, and there's
Yes.
all different types of people. I know you're a Frankston person, and there's all types of varieties of people at Frankston, and I love the older folk who are in our crowd. Usually the older grandmother types.
Yeah. Not
And-
really up on the modern game of football, but
Well-
they love their club, and you often see if there's more than one handball chain in a row, the frustration just boils to the surface until you get the kick it,
Yes, just kick it.
kick it.
And ultimately, what happens is the guy does kick it, and
The
there's
crowd, and you get the Bronx cheer goes up in the crowd. Yay, he's kicked
Yes.
it, and then you look up and the opposition take an uncontested mark.
switch it out the other side. Bang, bang,
Straight
bang.
they go to your head for a goal, and then the old nanny goes, at least he kicked it.
Yeah, but my mind works in a very unusual way. I'll be challenging the grandma. I'll be saying, but by kicking it, he's now kicked it to a 3-on-1 or a 4v2, and they've switched it out the other side, and they're rolling up and playing corridor football, and she's looking at me like...
She just goes, when Ted Whitten was playing,
Yeah, that's right.
He used to roost it.
Yeah, Jack Dyer wouldn't have done it. Yeah. Oh, well.
Well, we've got some of that to look forward to because we're allowed to go back to the game this year, I think, with some crowds. So
Yeah.
a lot of that to look forward to. There's a million football cliches, and
Well, we love a football.
we might try and roll a few more out in in coming weeks.
Well, you say you want to get back to the football, but I know you've had a bit of a tough week with illness, Tucky. And
Yeah.
I know you've spent some time watching a lot of television, and in particular the advertisements that come on television. I know you're a very analytical person, and you just don't let things slide. And you were telling me before about was it the McDonald's ad?
Yeah, unfortunately, as a TV watcher, I don't relax in the ads or go and do anything. I tend to watch them and critique them, and there's a number of ads that I'd put under the category of ads that shit me.
Okay, yeah. Oh, that's ads shit me just in general.
And maybe it's because of the unrealisticness of them or the stupidity of them. But the Macca's ad, Macca's
Well, they got a few ads.
they got a marketing budget of about $58 billion a year,
yes.
and there was that ad a while ago with the guy who's trying to get a coffee at 4 a.m. with his kid in the booster
Is he the
seat,
guy who's just driving around?
just doing donuts in the drive-through, and he goes past the order box and goes, I'll have a... And the girl's going, there's a look at this bloke, and he goes around again and he goes, can I have a meal? And the girl's going, what is going on?
Yeah,
and he drives past the girl and she goes,
Oh, he must want a latte.
oh, there's a baby in the back. He must want a medium latte almond milk with 1 sugar or something. And he's like, yes, I love McDonald's.
Yeah, but then he just drives off. Does he actually pay?
Yeah, how does he scan his credit? She holds the thing out and he's going 40 k's an hour and goes, boop.
Yeah.
Probably not the biggest issue in the world.
No, it's not. But McDonald's.
Famine in Ethiopia and those sort of things may be a bit more important, but
Yeah, but McDonald's have got history with this sort of stuff.
They
and that,
do.
because I get the shits when I see the McDonald's ad where there's that stoner whose wife's been calling him.
oh, that's that current ad. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been at the pub tab for 4 hours. He's been sinking pots all afternoon.
On the cones,
Yeah, and he's trying to get the directions to the Macca's.
trying to go to they're all at the beach.
Yes, I think all the
Yeah, they're having a seance or something on the beach, and there's about 10 of them.
and he's just lost his pay on Dapto. And he's trying to get he's like, so how do I get there? And she's like, if you face north, you turn right, and it's the one on the left. And as
There's 2 Maccas, bro. Yeah.
but as you probably know, the only 2 Maccas are probably on a freeway, right? So one on one side, one on the other. So if he's facing north and he has to turn right, wouldn't he just go into oncoming traffic?
I think so.
Or wouldn't he turn left and go over the overpass?
It's not the greatest instruction.
No.
But then the other bit I think of is, why doesn't she just go, hey mate, we're at the beach,
Yeah,
so just smell the water and walk towards there.
yeah. I mean, the poor guy saved up his whole pay. probably.
He's pretty flat. And
He's on 37.
And he knows he's got to tell the missus he's done the money. And then, what about when he turns up? He goes, "Hey, that was epic."
Yeah, and she's got that look on her face as if to say, I'm not talking to you for 3 weeks.
You better get comfortable because you're not sleeping in the bed.
Okay.
There's a lot more ads. Another series of ads that I don't like are the Bunnings ads because
yes.
every not the ones where the guy goes, "Bunnings, you can do your backyard for $1.50."
Is that where the 72-year-old bloke who is nearly retired and he goes, "Oh, bugger it, I'll go work at Bunnings." Or is that what you're talking about? Or?
Yeah, but every time they go, come down to Bunnings, they pan to the car park and there's 100 million free parking spaces.
Yeah.
When I go to Frank's and Bunnings, there's everyone punching on for the final spot. There's normally some abuse going on. The sausage sizzle's got about 40 in the queue.
Yeah.
And they go, come on down to Bunnings, you'll park in pole position and there's no one in the shop.
Oh, well, good stuff. Look, as I said before...
Good story, bro.
As I said before, AFL season is 10 days away and we love to analyse our player lists here at Winks Tucky. And I know you've been spending some time doing some genuine research on some teams.
And some is it JLT games? What is it called now? Are they just pre-season games or the JLT
the
series?
Cup?
Yes, Panasonic Cup.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it's called.
I do miss Scotty Palmer at half-time, but there's only one practice match or pre-season game for each team this year, so there's been some highlights and lowlights and some teams that have struggled and look okay, but we're going to look at a couple of teams, I think, for today about their prospects for the year ahead. Yeah,
well, the Western Bulldogs did play today and we're going to talk about them. I think my ranking might just go down a little bit because I heard Aaron Norton might have got injured today. I'm not sure how serious it is. So why don't we talk about the Bulldogs and how do you rank them this year?
Well, the thing to me that stands out for the Western Bulldogs is their midfield looks absolutely loaded for this year. Adam Treloar is the key signing over summer. He played in the reserves today. I know he had some of those niggling, what do they say, calf awareness and all that sort of stuff. But I think having played today, he'll probably play.
Or did he still have a bruised ego? Is he?
He might have a bruised ego.
Yeah, he's still recovering.
He's got a bulging bank balance, though, I think, from his contract. But when you throw Treloar in with Bontempelli, who was amazing today, McRae, Liberatore, a player that probably gets overlooked, I think is nearly the best wingman in the competition is Lockie Hunter. I think he's pivotal to their game, and he goes under the radar a little bit. Bailey Smith's a star, so their midfield could quite possibly be seen as the best midfield in the competition. They've added Stefan Martin from Brisbane, which might release Tim English to go forward. Aaron Norton's probably the guy that could have an amazing season. Hopefully he gets the all clear to play early in the season.
So do you think for them to be successful, obviously we think their midfield is going to perform. Their forward line has got fellas like Norton and Josh Bruce.
Josh Bruce went half mad today, Ken Bruce.
Oh, Josh Bruce went mad.
He had a couple...
Did he go completely mad?
No, he kicked a couple and his kicking was okay today, which he normally... Well, he's probably the worst kick for goal from 2 metres out in the competition.
Yes.
But he looked okay today, and Tim English was stationed inside 50 for a fair bit. So I think... I don't think that's a proven combination of forwards.
Yeah.
But it's got potential.
I didn't watch too much of the game, but I did see Stephen May and Jakey Lever have the better of them early.
Yes.
And
then the midfield dominance, I think it was in the third quarter. Bontempelli just did some ridiculously good stuff. But I think the Bulldogs potentially, they can dominate the midfield for most of this season.
Yeah.
And that might...
that's going to be good enough for them to get up.
Might overcome some of those potential weaknesses down back. You still look at them and think Alex Keith and Gardner as key backs.
Yeah, they're honest toilers.
Yes.
But when you mention those names, I go back to 2016. I think of Hamling and Fletcher Roberts.
Yes.
And they had some workman-like sort of fellas there that weren't superstars, but they played within a system.
Yes.
And that's going
to be... midfield pressure they had, Liberatore's crucial for that. Meant there was sort of junk ball going forward. Down back, they've got Bailey Williams, Caleb Daniel. Johannesson was dropped to the reserves today, which was really interesting.
Bailey Williams is very good player.
He's
very strong and
beautiful
powerful.
kick.
Yeah.
Very got good Ezra poise, good poise. So I think they might be able to exploit that man on the mark rule that's happening at the moment. The Mitch Wallace I love as a small forward, but he's not a genuine crummer.
No.
I think he's the best set shot for goal in the competition.
They probably need someone in their forward line who's creative.
Yeah. And they McNeil played today. I think they'd love Jake Waitman to come along in the future as a real Stevie Milne, you know, I don't know, like a Ballantyne type, pure crummer. But I see the Dogs as being a top 4 to 6 side this year, which would be win a final, which would be an improvement on last year. But they've got scope to be even better than that.
Yeah.
And maybe even scope to be worse than that.
They're an unknown, aren't they? But I still think they'll finish around that 4 to 6 that you're talking about. I'm going to tip them. Before today, I had them at 4. I'm just going to drop them a notch because I'm just a little concerned about Aaron Norton.
I think if he missed, I don't know what's a broken forearm, could be in 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to get behind the 8 ball,
No.
I think.
And what about young Latham Vandermeer? Is he the butler from Benson or something?
I'm not sure if he's related to ex-Frankston backman Peter Vandermeer, but
Well, he may well be.
it's a nice name along with Patrick Lipinski.
Oh, yeah. Monica's brother.
Related to Bill Clinton or something like that. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Yes.
Yes, okay, so we've done the Western Bulldogs, and I believe we're also looking at the West Coast Eagles. We're the Eagles.
They are
and
flying
we're
high.
Here to show you why. Yep.
Well, West Coast coming off probably a disappointing season 2020. The first thing that struck me last year was I don't think they like playing in the hub, West Coast. I don't think they handled that very well.
Gold Coast beat them by about 8 or 10 goals in that
they
first
did,
game.
which it's hard to think being on holiday in the Gold Coast would be hard to deal with, but they didn't look like they embraced it. So I think automatically being back to some sort of normal routine, I saw Western Australia open their borders again the other day, which means they won't be stuck in a hub again. I think you'll see definite improvement from this year. I don't see they have a weakness in their side.
Could their weakness be their age? And potentially their desire?
Yeah, they do have some players like the captain Shannon Hearn. He's in his 31, 32.
Yeah.
Josh P. Kennedy, or whatever his name is, Josh Kennedy.
Yes.
The full forward, he's getting on and could potentially taper off, but he'll still always need a good opponent.
Yes.
But I look at their midfield. Nick Nat is amazing in there.
Elliot Yo-Yo.
Yes. Some people say his form's up and down.
Oh, yes. But he had it on a string for a lot of last year.
He did, and did he rock the cradle? I don't know. We've run out of yo-yo jokes, haven't we?
I don't know.
Elliot Yo, Shuey, Tim Kelly.
Well, Tim Kelly's one who I think could actually improve because he looked like he was carrying a little bit of fat around the belly at the start of last year. And we saw what he could do at Geelong. He might be someone I think you could look at as, say, a Brownlow medal contender.
Yeah, he's the sort of player that he's maybe not a 30-plusser, but he'd be a 25-plus and 2 goals and some inside 50s. Redden, Gaff, those sort of guys in the midfield. Down back, the Gov is, he must be nearly the most important player in the competition.
He's a star.
Revolutionised back intercept play. Barras is solid.
Yep, premiership player.
And then you've got guys like Shepherd and Hearn.
Duggan.
Well, Duggan's probably going to play midfield this year.
Okay.
So
what, on a wing, what do you think? Or
inside mid he's played.
Okay.
So they really like him, think he's very tough.
He's got very good hair at the moment too.
He's got a little bit like a bit of a Screech mullet.
Yeah.
The late Screech from Saved by the Bell.
Dustin Diamond.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's rocking some good hair. So they're strong. I was trying to think of the pure pace they have out of the back line. I'm not sure if they've...
Well, they've got Petruccelli as well. He's probably their quickest guy, right?
He is, and showed again on the weekend that he is lightning. He's more a forward.
Yeah.
And then you go forward and still, if you were coming up to play the Eagles, you've got to match up on Kennedy, Jack Darling, Oscar Allen, who's nearly the most promising
very good
key in the competition.
Yeah, they've even got Waterman as well, right? Who's like a fourth tall.
Yeah, he's got that sort of shaved mullet thing going as well.
Yeah.
There's a Bailey Williams waiting in the wing, who's son of Frankston, great, and Pines, great. Paul Williams.
Okay, is he going to be a good player, you think?
He'll be very solid. He'll probably take over the ruck mantle post Natanui, which
can he play forward?
he can. Yeah, he's actually got some good forward craft. So I think eventually he'll be a very good player, but it's hard to break into at the moment. I can't see any weaknesses in their game other than if the older players drop off. They're top 4 material for me.
Yes.
And as always with West Coast, if they could finish top 2 and get home finals, I think you could almost mark them down for a grand final appearance.
All right, so where have you got them finishing?
I've just got them generally top 4, maybe third if I had to pick a position.
Oh, I want you to.
Well, third position. If they got home finals, though, I'd say they'll make the grand final, and it wouldn't surprise me to see them take home the chocolates this year.
Okay, I've also got them finishing in third position. So why don't we go on, Tucky, for a little bit of Q&A.
You're going to fire the questions, and I...
Well, would you believe I prepared something earlier?
Wow, that's good for you.
Yes, very unprepared. So I've just written a few questions. You can elaborate, you can answer yes or no. They're sporting or life questions.
Nice. I've never heard of this segment in a podcast before, so we mustn't be ripping anyone off.
No.
It's not good call, bad call, is it?
No, it's better than that. A lot better. And I'll prove to you why right now by asking the first question. Who's the better actor, Ian Ziering or St Kilda's Jack Loney?
Well, Ian. Is that how you say his name? I thought it was Ian.
Well, I thought it was Ian, but I've heard it is actually Ian.
His manager wants us to call him Ian. Ian Ziering of Beverly Hills 90210 fame and
Sharknado.
One
of the better movies.
Which I can say, I watched that.
Did you?
And I liked at the end when he got eaten by a shark.
Yeah.
But he was holding a chainsaw, so he cut the shark's mouth off from inside and just stepped out and went, "Here you go."
Well, that's why it's such a good movie.
So then, who's the better actor? Well, Jack Loney. He's got the playing for a free kick. That's definitely in his kit bag.
Yes.
And he's probably had it his whole career.
He needs to get it out of his game, Tucky.
Yeah. I think he's one of those. He seemed to me to be one of those players, a small forward, that just rates his game on the number of goals he kicks.
Yes.
And hence why getting he does duck and dive for free kicks and that sort of stuff. I think he's actually quite a good player.
I think he's a very good player if he just concentrated on what he does best, which, just watching some games last year and recently, he's good at losing his opponent in traffic and kicking opportunistic goals. And if he can kick 30 to 35 goals,
I think that'd be a huge return, but that's...
Yeah, but what about his defensive side of his game as well? Is that something that...
I think he's actually okay. Surprisingly, he's... Not surprisingly, but sometimes you get small forwards that like a goal that don't like the other side of the game. He's a good tackler. He's actually got good courage in the air.
Okay.
So I'm sure... I'm not sure we'll ever see him get it out of his game. But while we're talking about the Saints, and that's my side, I watch them on the weekend. But I
realise it's a very structured show, Tucky, but you've got something...
I'm going off Broadway.
No, go for it.
Because I noticed this.
This is your show as well as mine.
On the weekend, and it struck me that he does this a lot, but there's a player for St Kilda who I think appeals for deliberate out-of-bounds free kicks more than anyone I've ever seen.
I think I know who you're talking about.
And that's Jack Billings.
Yes, he does.
And he gets the seagull wings out every time he's near the boundary.
Is he that one?
Umpire, that was deliberate. or then he goes, that was on the full. He does that. So
yes.
I noticed it on the weekend, but he does it all the time.
Yes, he's got to get that out of his game. So, all right, let's go back to Ian Ziering and Jack Loney. Who's the better actor?
Ian. Just for Sharknado.
Yep, they're a great movie, as I said.
Good on you, Ian.
Okay, now, question without notice. Of course, all these questions are without notice. The Mick Malloy Show or Holy Moly? What's the better show?
Well, how long did the Mick Malloy Show run for? Was it one episode and 1 minute?
No, it lasted 8 weeks.
But it got sacked after 2. They told him they weren't renewing after the first episode.
Oh, okay.
I have a theory with Mick Malloy is that he needs to play the role of wingman.
Okay. he not like me. He can't be the star.
No, he can be the star, but not the host. He needs someone like an Andy Marr. Not that I'm saying you're Andy Marr, Dan.
Well, hang on, wouldn't you be Andy Marr? Or am I Bob Murphy? Or?
Well, I think I'm funny, so I can't be Andy Marr. But
okay.
Anyway,
did you know radar is a palindrome? It's spelled like Glenelg.
Yes.
We better get back to the script.
Yeah.
What was the question?
So what are we talking about?
Have you seen Holy Moly?
I refuse to watch it because
I think you should watch at least 5 minutes of it. And
no,
then
I
give
refuse
me
to because what's that guy Rob Rick or whatever he is, or Rick Rob or
the American fellow
with the fake laughter and the.
He's actually reasonably funny in some of those American movies. Terrific.
He actually is okay.
Yeah.
But
yes.
I think they replaced him with a piece of cardboard when he came out here because he does those. I don't know if they record it.
Well, he
does a commentary afterwards in the States.
He does it in the States. Yeah. The US version of the show. Apparently, he's really good.
Well, he must save all his good material for that because on the ads. And I see that. I thought it was going to be a mini golf show, which I thought would actually be semi-interesting. But then, like, I saw someone go hit a putt and then they had to walk the plank and then they got smacked or something. And I was like,
it's like it's a knockout
or white out or something like that. So
yeah.
So I'd go. I'd take the Mick Malloy show any day because I think he's the funniest man in Australia. Mick Malloy.
What about? You think he's the funniest man in Australia?
He's the funniest man on TV in Australia.
Okay. What about Dave Hughes? No, Mick Malloy.
No,
yeah. Okay. All right. Jack Grimes or Harris Andrews?
Jack Grimes or Harris Andrews. That's an easy one because Jack Grimes got delisted about 4 years ago. Are you talking Dylan Grimes?
Yes, correct. Dylan Grimes or Harris Andrews? Jack Grimes.
An interesting one though, that no one would have thought that Dylan Grimes would have a better career than Jack Grimes at the start of his career.
Yes, that's what's called a deliberate faux pas.
Oh, was it? Yeah. So Harris Andrews or Dylan Grimes?
Yes.
I'm a Harris Andrews man. I think he's an absolute superstar and probably the best defender in the competition.
Really? The best tall defender or just the best defender?
Best tall defender. Last year, I think he got a couple of players got hold of him last year.
Yes.
And they weren't necessarily always the best players, but I think he's he went from being captain spoiled.
Yes.
I think he got taught by
Astro Boy.
Remember that redhead Roger Merritt backman? Sauce Merritt?
Yes.
Who was the most negative defender you've ever seen.
Oh, he'd be 20 metres on his own and just go...
I think they used to switch the ball to him in the middle and he'd go rush behind. And
well, that was at the start of his career. He ended up being a very good player.
He did, and kicked 6 in his last game too, I think. So.
No, he got about 12 kicked on him by Nick Rewald.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah.
Good memory. Must have been the other Roger Merritt.
Yes.
But he's gone from the spoiling defender to now he marks and intercepts. I think he's incredible. I love Dylan Grimes for his ability to play on anyone.
Yes.
He's a set and forget type player, never gets beaten. And
does he ever have a game where you go, he's had 3 kicked on him?
No, I can't think of it.
So Harris Andrews had a few of those games last year. He did, but...
I think his offensive output outweighs maybe a 1 or 2 games where he's been held up.
Yes. But Dylan Grimes is better than that. He's better at that now. He used to be quite a negative defender. Yes. Now he's that guy who can take an intercept mark, let his man roll up to the contest.
And he's essentially taken over Alex Rance's role. And maybe some could argue he's doing it as well as Alex Rance. I think Grimes got better defenders around him.
Yes.
Which I think helps with the defensive system. Brisbane are improving, and I'm trying to think of some of their other key backs. They had Payne came in late last year.
He looked all right.
I think he's going to be. He's built like the Major Payne. Major Payne. He's built like the proverbial brick outhouse.
Yes.
He should be good. But if I had to pick Harris Andrews all the way.
Okay. I love Dylan Grimes, so no disrespect to Harris, but I'm going to go for Dylan. Okay. Now, who will Carlton pick up if they had to pick up one of these 2 players? Oscar Mcdonnell or Callum Moore?
Wow. And we're talking about those SSP, is that what they call it? You can elevate a player to a vacant list spot. Based on the weekend, this one's a lay down there. Oscar Mcdonnell.
Okay.
Played forward for the first time in his career, kicked 2.
Yeah.
He must have had mid-team possession sort of stuff. He was actually pretty competent.
So he's got a bit of versatility about him.
Played, he might have played 80 games at Melbourne.
Yeah.
He's a much maligned player at Melbourne, I think, in the end. But given he's got experience in the system, Callum Moore didn't really. He got a few minutes the other day, but he would have been sitting on the bench watching Oscar turn it on, thinking I may as well pack my bags and go back to Coburg, because I think based on the output on the weekend, it'll be an easy decision for Carlton.
But Carlton won't give up the farm for McDonnell, will they? Because if they did, McDonnell would have a farm. E-I-E-I-O. Anyway, the point I was going to make about Callum Moore is, could they potentially have a go at looking at him as a defender, or is it just too late for that? Similar to what they did with Liam Jones, who, for mine, probably should have played defence earlier in his career, wasn't overly quick, and that's probably why I think he probably failed as a forward. He was unable to get
He also had the endurance that I currently have at the moment, so that was never good as a forward. Callum Moore, he's only played, I think Jones had played more senior footy as a forward. He's never really, I don't know if he's never got the opportunity, but he's never found himself at the level, I don't think. So hopefully he goes back to Coburg, and I suspect he'll have a really strong year at Coburg, and there's every chance someone will pick him up, because he's about 195 plus, I think, and he's one of those players that clubs are always looking to put on the list.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's definitely
Oscar McDonnell.
Yep.
Yeah.
E-I.
And on that farm they had what?
I'm not sure. It was probably a vegan.
They don't have Charlie Curnow on the farm, do they?
No.
Anyway,
it's probably a vegan farm. Well, Tucky, it's been great having a chat with you about sport and life, and I'm sure we'll do this again next week. So, folks, thanks for joining us. I'm Tinks and he's Wacky. We'll see you next week. We'll see you next week.